So let's talk about CloudWatch logs. And basically, the applications can send your logs straight from where they are to CloudWatch using the SDK. Turns out that also CloudWatch has integration and can collect logs from many different EBS services, some of them being Elastic Beanstalk, so we can straight send it from Elastic Beanstalk to CloudWatch, ECS from containers, AWS Lambda straight from the function logs, VPC flow logs, which are VPC specific logs, API Gateway, we haven't seen what it is yet, CloudTrail, we haven't seen what it is yet, but you get the idea of that it can send logs to CloudWatch. And then we can also set up CloudWatch log agents on any machine, for example, EC2 machines, but even on-premise machines. And these log agents will get log files and send it to CloudWatch. We can also set it up for Route 53 to log DNS queries. Basically, anything that gives and create logs usually can send it to CloudWatch logs. Now, CloudWatch logs themselves can be processed in CloudWatch, but they can also be exported to Amazon S3 for archival purposes, or they can be streamed to an Elasticsearch cluster for further analytics. So your CloudWatch logs can really be processed by more open source technology if you wanted to. Now, CloudWatch logs themselves, they can use filter expressions if you want to search through them. And there's a log storage architecture you need to know about. It's just naming convention, but there's a log group and it's arbitrary name, but it usually represents an application. And then within the log group, you have log streams. And so log streams usually represent instances within your application or log files or containers. You can define a log expiration policy to either never expire or have 30 days, etc. And you can use the AWS CLI so we can tail the CloudWatch log. So as the logs are displayed in CloudWatch, you can have them in your command line interface if you wanted to. And then things to know that are really good to know for CloudWatch. If you want to send logs to CloudWatch, you need to make sure that your IAM permissions are correct. It is, I think, quite a common question at the exam. And for security purposes, all the logs can be encrypted using KMS at rest at the group level. So you would define a log group and say that log group is encrypted with KMS. So without further ado, let's go into CloudWatch logs to see how it works. So let's click on logs right here. And so we can see that we already have a log group created from before when we used code build. And so anytime code build was building something, the log was being created and put into this log group called AWS code build tests for congratulations. And so if we look within the log group, we saw there was some log streams. And so each build basically created a log stream. So if we click on this log stream right here, we can see all the logs that happened for our code build. So we can see that we had the install, pre-build, build, and post-build, and that we are, executing commands such as echo install something, and we get the output of it, and so on. So basically, we've already used CloudWatch logs without even knowing about it. But if you remember, I said that code build was sending its logs to CloudWatch. So that's already very helpful. Let's look at this log group right here. We can set the retention policy to either never expire, or we can say 1 day, 3 days, 5 days, and so on. So up to 10 years of retention of data based on how much logs you think you're going to need. And if you click on this log group right here, as an action, you see that you can export the data to Amazon S3, and you can view all the exports as well in Amazon S3, and we can even stream this to AWS Lambda if you wanted to, or the Elasticsearch service. So overall, a lot of capabilities. Now within this log group, we can see all the log stream, and so we could create a log stream, delete a log stream. We have lots of different capabilities, or we can even search within the log group for, for something named echo. And so every line that had the echo in it will be returned. And so there's a whole different wide array of filters you can use. There's a whole query language for this, and you can even set a time period to see, where it was. Then we can strictly just jump to the stream and it will take us directly where that line of echo happened. So that's pretty convenient. Now let's just do something fun and go to Elastic Beanstalk just to play a little bit with it. So we go to Elastic Beanstalk and say we wanted to get my environment, my dev environment, to send logs to CloudWatch. We go to configuration, and then within this configuration, I'll scroll down, and obviously it's going to be in monitoring. I'll click on modify, and here we can see a lot of CloudWatch custom metrics we could include in there if we wanted to. And we could also define some health monitoring rules, but the more important thing for this lecture is to set the health event streaming to CloudWatch logs. And so we can say, okay, we can enable log streaming and we're going to have a retention of 7 days, and we're going to keep logs after terminating the environment. Let's click on continue. And the other thing we want to do is go to software, and in software, we're going to be able to get application level logs. So we can say either you get your logs into S3, or we can even stream them into CloudWatch Logs. We'll enable it. We'll have a retention of 7 days, and I'll keep the same setting for lifecycle. And so this time, this will be instances application logs straight into CloudWatch Logs. This time we click on apply. And so what will happen here is that Beanstalk will be updating the environment. That means that it will update itself to set up this log configuration and move everything to CloudWatch. And so as we can see in the recent events, it creates some CloudWatch log groups for our application. So we have different log groups that we can look at. So for example, EB activity, HTTP access log, and error log, and access log for Nginx. So that's pretty cool. Now if we go back to CloudWatch Logs and just refresh, now we see a lot more logs coming straight out of the Elastic Beanstalk. And so from there, we really are able to, okay, let's look at, for example, the EB activity log. Click on the stream and we get a bunch of logs coming from Elastic Beanstalk. So it's really, really cool. I find it's really awesome because now we have a centralized way of looking through all the errors, the access, the Node.js log if we wanted to, so we can see that the server just started running and so on. So overall, just, a little gimmick, but any AWS services will be able to integrate with CloudWatch Log if there is any log being produced. And so this is where the logs would end up. So I hope that was helpful, and I will see you in the next lecture.